What's the stupidest way you've hurt yourself? I was 8 years old and running home on my lunch break so that I could watch Inspector Gadget, which came on at noon. I decided it would be neat to look down at my feet while I ran, and next thing I know I've run full speed into a parked car. I think I laid like a dead body on the road for a good 5-10 minutes. It hurt so badly. I was late for my Inspector Gadget episode and never told anyone what happened. Remember when your parents told you to tie your laces or you would hurt yourself? Well, they were right. I was that kid who ran with untied laces. I fell and instinctively put both my arms out. I landed on my right hand/arm and managed to snap my forearm and dislocate my wrist, as I had dislocated my wrist before, as I was accident prone. I attempted to pop it back in myself in panic. I can't describe the crunchy noise that my arm made, or the pain I felt. I then had to walk to the nurse's office at my school and wait for my parents to pick me up. They didn't think it was serious. At the hospital, the x-ray was a little extreme, and I had to have surgery to correct my arm 14 years later, and my wrist still isn't the same, and it still hurts in the cold. Life tip: tie your fucking laces. My brother was teasing me while I was doing homework. Think I was maybe 8 or 9 at the time, and after a few minutes, I snapped, took my pencil, and went to jab him with the eraser, and so as to not hurt him too badly and get him to shut up. To get a bit more force behind it, I decided to wrap my index finger over the other end, the end with the point. I'm sure you can guess what happened next. A lot of crying and a trip to the emergency room later. I had a pencil point being removed from my finger. When I was 5, I was rushed to the ER twice in the same week. First, I slid down the banister as the door below swung open and I crashed headfirst into the corner of the door. Then 3 days later, I was playing on the radiator, slipped off, and smashed my head again. Doctors thought my parents were abusive and there was an investigation over it, apparently. My brother was so accident prone as a child, still is, actually. It started with stupid stuff as a baby. Ate a bulb from a poisonous plant while in his walker, fell off the deck at the babysitter's house. Young cousin was bouncing him on her knee and he tipped forward and hit the coffee table, and just progressed from there. Lots of stitches, a couple of broken bones, a concussion. There was definitely one doctor's visit where he was separated from my parents, who were also separated from each other, and all were questioned. He is really just that clumsy/unlucky. My husband has decided, in hindsight, that it is because his feet are easily a size 13 and he is less than 6 tall. He practically has skis for feet. Happened 6 years and 3+ days ago. Was home alone early afternoon. Believed I was home alone. But then I heard a noise that I thought was inside the house. No one else should be home but me, so I was spooked. I crept out and listened for movement and thought I heard a voice downstairs. I tried to sneak down the stairs but only made it to the first step. By the second step, my heel slipped out from under me and I planted hard on the step and slid down to the last 3 steps, finally able to stop. My shoulder was sore trying to save myself on the rail. My back is beat to hell from hitting all the steps down. My tailbone is pulsing, nothing but pain. Trying to get up made it worse. Nothing felt broken. I was able to get up after a minute or so and baby step around the corner where I found the source. It was my neighbors talking in their backyard, and brother had his window open, allowing it to carry into the house. For 5 years, if I sat longer than an hour, my tailbone/coccyx hurt. Watching movies, which I love, was always troublesome. I got seat cushions for it that I couldn't go without at home. About 7 months ago it just stopped. No more pain. Edit. From another comment about it. A few months after the incident, I was diagnosed with kidney failure and was on dialysis for a month shy of 5 years when I got a kidney transplant. Throughout my whole sickness I talked about the injury with doctors, PET scans, and of course detailed look because of the transplant. No fractures were found. At worst, I had a mini fracture. At best, the excess fluid was exacerbating it. After the transplant, I've taken it as a strong possibility that it finally healed thanks to no excess fluid hanging around. One of the small reasons I opted for peritoneal dialysis over hemodialysis. I once went on my balcony to smoke a cigarette, only I forgot there was no balcony anymore because it was getting fixed. So I broke my leg falling one story down. Now the real irony was, my mother wanted to fix the balcony because it was old and she was afraid it might break off and I might hurt myself. At work. When I moved to my new workplace, I was forced to switch from regular steel toes to heavy-duty boots with a plate over the laces for my protection. While unloading a load of steel, the plate that is there for my protection caught on the lip of a steel beam I was stepping over on the stockpile and dropped me from standing up with my head 6 feet up to ground level. Very luckily, there was a 10x6 steel beam to catch me on the edge to keep my head from hitting the concrete floor, and I only had to get 12 staples and take a week off work. Of note, the only reason I bought the fucking boots in the first place is that the GM noticed I didn't have them and told me if I didn't show up next shift with them I'd be sent home. Buried at the bottom so I am safe. I was at work in a high-stress office complex in Virginia. The work made you eat quickly and often at your desk. I was eating a baby carrot and tortilla chips when all of a sudden I get stabbed with the edge of a chip midway chewing the carrot. Blood all down my throat, the chip was sharp, and I turned blue choking on baby carrots. Good times nearly getting killed by a chip and a carrot. Learned to slow down when eating. Edit. Of course, my top comment of my account 10 years old in February 20th is of me choking on a baby carrot. Thank you, kind stranger, for the gold. I laughed at all the comments and hopefully those around me haven't figured me out yet. Take your pick. 1. I burned the shit out my hand on a go-kart muffler trying to help the neighborhood kid put shit out of a ditch. Ended up with a blister 4 inches high on my palm. 2. I was running through the house on tile with socks. Inevitably I slipped and had to catch myself on the couch. Unfortunately I got my finger stuck between the cushions, broke my finger. Both of these happened in the same year. Anybody who has TMJ knows you can aggravate it in the stupidest ways. When I was in high school I was eating an apple and my jaw completely froze as I was taking a bite. The apple was just hanging from my mouth, suspended by my teeth. I looked like a horse with brain damage. I had to get my dad to extract the apple from my mouth. It hurt like a bitch for a long time. I couldn't chew or talk properly for months and my entire face was crooked because my jaw was stuck off to one side. It healed eventually, but later I set it off again by eating the cookie. I once set it off by yawning too white. It sometimes goes off on its own for no reason. I wish I knew what it was like to have a working jaw. Edit. Thanks for the gold. This is my first one. Which one? 5 years old. Parents' driveway is gravel. It's a hot day. I had this brilliant idea to tightrope walk on the bumper of a 1979-ish Subaru. Ended up making it to the end/edge of the bumper and talking the foul. However, there was some metal on the fender that was sticking out. Ended up slicing my abdomen open in a large J-shaped scar that pretty much covered below the xiphoid process to my belly button. I saw my organs. I was one of the first kids in Colorado to have internal dissolving stitches. I remember the blood, seeing my own stomach and getting staples put in. It was my grandma's birthday. Not sure what exact age, but in Boy Scouts. We fell in a campfire. Somehow my bootlace got wrapped ampersand stuck under a camp chair near the campfire. Probably as you move/adjust the chair the lace got in there somehow. I stood up, chair hit me in the back of the knees. I fell straight into the campfire. If I wouldn't have had long johns on under my jeans, I would have been severely burned. Thanks Scoutmaster Ken for pulling me out of the fire. I did remember to stop, drop, ampersand, flop. See Boy Scout Camp Part 2. I am standing on this log. Just standing on it, not doing anything crazy. Scoutmaster says, "Don't stand on that." Yeah, I stand on it. It rocks. I fall. I black out for a few seconds on impact. Wake up to see my right wrist in a contorted fashion. Ended up dislocating some bones in my wrist and breaking my forearm in half. Before the ambulance showed up, everyone took turns putting me in a splint. I've had a few more good ones, but nothing that required super fear, and I've only seen the insides of my body one other time. Once as a child I lit a dryer sheet on fire thinking it would burn really fast because it's just fluff, right? Nah, it's more like plastic. And started dripping flaming molten balls of hatred on my floor. I was scared. I panicked. I shook the dryer sheet. A few molten plastic lava ball burns on my face and arms later. I now respect the laundry and leave it to my wife. Took my dad's high-powered rifle with scope out hunting without his permission when I was 15. Never having used a scoped rifle before and with no one there to correct me, I slid the rifle butt off my shoulder and tucked it under my armpit before aiming. At the same time, I placed the rear of the scope right up against my eye and pulled the trigger. The recoil from the gun firing punched the metal edge of the scope right through the skin on my forehead and into my skull just above the bridge of my nose, as clean as if it was a cookie cutter. Hurt like hell and bled like a motherfucker. Plus I missed. And that, my children, is how Dad came to get that funny arc-shaped scar between his eyes that you've always wondered about but were afraid to ask. 21 more replies.